I am Robert Stephen from Indonesia. I got a questions asking regarding the difference between Japanese bonsai, Korean, Taiwanese, and China. In fact, there is no black and white difference between the bonsai from these four countries. But in general, there are few different in characteristic that we can see. For instance, the bonsai from Japan, they are more dogmatic. They require more perfections on anatomical detail and also the technical aspect. And especially the old image of the bonsai, because most of the classic bonsai for Japan, they are very old and very massive. And in Japan, they are more on conifers, especially the junipers and pine. They don't have so much deciduous bonsai like other Asian or Southeast Asian countries. And if we are talking about Korea, they are more Japanese oriented. They are very similar. Sometimes we cannot tell exactly the difference between the bonsai from Korea or from Japan, because they have more or less the same characteristic. They have more or less working on the same species. They are working more on conifers. They don't have so much deciduous bonsai. And in fact, a lot of bonsai from Japan, especially the commercial bonsai in Japan, they come from Korea. In Korea, they have a big productions nursery, and they export to Japan, and then spreading from Japan, and then a lot of people they thought that they get the Japanese bonsai. So between the Korean and Japanese bonsai, there's not so much different. Talking about the Taiwanese bonsai, they are also Japanese oriented. They also requires a technical perfection, the anatomical perfection. There are some species they are working the same like Korea or Japan, like junipers. But in Taiwan, they are also working on a lot of deciduous bonsai. Talking on junipers or conifers from Taiwan, in general, we can see that the technical aspect, the way how they design their bonsai more or less like Japan. But there are one very specific difference. A very obvious difference is how they work on the tinseri. The tinseri from Japan or from Korea, mostly they are done using electrical tool or machine. But in Taiwan, they are using a technique so-called the sitiao, or the fiber carving technique. This technique was invented in Taiwan, and I would say that the result is much better than the technique from Japan or from Korea, because with the fiber carving, in a shorter time, we can obtain a more realistic, more natural looks of the dead. So this is the difference. So come back to the deciduous from Taiwan. They are also very massive. They are also very perfect in the ramification, on the proportions, and which is this is what we don't find so much in Korea or from Japan. Let's talk about the Chinese bonsai, or we call it the punching. A lot of people they misperceive or they misinterpret of what we call it punching. A lot of people thought that every bonsai with panorama, with landscape, with the tray, like a grouping, and then they call it punching. In fact, it's not the case. It is only a terminology. Even although there are certain different in characteristics. This different because of the different approach of Chinese punching compared with Japanese or Korea or Taiwan. Because the Chinese, they are using more, we call it the aesthetic approach rather than technical. So they are more free in expression, they are free in creation, in style, so they are not very rigid on the style, on the technical aspect. Because why? Because the Chinese bonsai, they are very strong influenced by the Chinese painting, especially, and the point. So they are very much require the result of nuances, the natural sensation of the design, what the Chinese call it the I Ching. This I Ching is difficult to translate into other languages. This is the kind of artistic nuance, the artistic, the artistic sensation of the theme. It's like a thematic, it's a romance. It's a very sentimental nuance of the overall design. This is the main or the basic requirement of Chinese bonsai or the bunching. And also in Chinese bunching, they have a lot of different schools with very distinctive difference between one to the others. Even now, they are less and less obvious because of the interaction. Let's say, for instance, the Lingnan's bunching, they are very strong in the ramification of deciduous bonsai. So the Chinese, I would say, if we are talking about the conifers, they are not as good as the Japanese or Taiwanese. But for the deciduous bonsai, I would say that the Chinese bonsai is the best, especially with the Lingnan technique. And there are also some style in Chinese bonsai which we don't find in other countries like Japan or Korea. For instance, the windswept, the on the rock, the water and land punching, the wall hanging punching. Even the literally is different with the Japanese. So they have their own character, and this is, I would say, the more or less the difference between these four countries. But there is one more country I want to mention is the bonsai from Indonesia. The bonsai from Indonesia, we have our own character. We are not really influenced, or we are not really oriented to Japan or to China. We have our own character because most of the material we got from the wild. Mostly we are working on tropical material with very strong, very massive texture, very strong character. And for this, we play a lot with the line, the movement, and we are not working so much on the dense foliage, but the ramification is very important for us. And I would say in overall, these are the few countries we can see the difference in character. Like for instance, this picture. You want to call it the Chinese bonsai or Japanese or Indonesian? Well, who cares? Now, some people say I'm making contaminated bonsai and unauthentic bunching, but who cares? As long as you can design a nice bonsai and then aesthetically beautiful, then